Joyce Banda, thanks for joining me on UpFront. In July of this year, Malawi police secured an arrest warrant against you over alleged abuse of office and money laundering offences as part of the estimated $250 million corruption scandal known as Cashgate, which erupted in 2013 when you were president. It's been over 3 years since you left office and left the country. Do you plan to return to Malawi to try and clear your name?
I intend to plan to return to Malawi, but maybe let me get back to your question. There was no warrant of arrest that was issued by the Malawi police. It was a press release announcing that they had a warrant of arrest. Up until now, that was in July, up until now, there's no warrant of arrest. What happened that day, I was on my way home. I had completed my fellowship at the Woodrow Wilson Center. And I phoned Malawi on the 31st of July at 11 o'clock in the morning that I would be returning to Malawi and speaking to the Chief of Staff of the of the Office of the President Cabinet. The same day, 5 hours later, there was an announcement that there would be a warrant of arrest. Up until now, the warrant of arrest has not been issued.
Okay, so no warrant of arrest.
There's no warrant
an announcement of a warrant of arrest, but also lots of allegations from former colleagues of yours who have accused you of being involved in corruption. Former colleagues of yours who are now behind bars, convicted, they're saying, but you were involved too. You know that, you've heard them say it.
Yes.
What do you say in response?
And I can give you evidence that when I was in office, 2 years I came in to complete the 2 years of the former president. And the first 3 years was the genesis of the corruption of the 2 years that I stayed in office. There is now a forensic audit supported and funded by the German government that shows that 577 billion kwacha was stolen in the first 3 years. When I came in for my 2 years, I asked, and I was alerted by the European Union ambassador, that the integrated financial management system was being abused. And on the 7th of September 2013, I made an announcement to the nation that I had been alerted and I would be taking action. During that period, is the period that I arrested 72 people. And I asked the British government to fund a forensic audit. And I want you to tell me how many presidents in Africa will conduct a forensic audit in their government during their time. And that audit report by the Baker Tilly audit firm is a public document online. And that document vindicated me. It was a year after, then 6 months after the release of that report, after I left office, that it was clear in Malawi that they were now pressurizing those that we had convicted and were already serving sentences.
So these people who are members of your party, members of your government, you're saying they were either pressured or they're lying? They
were pressured, and I have evidence. But not only that, you must know that they were arrested in 2013 November. And we spent a year, and we had elections, and I left office. And 6 months after that, the report, the Baker Tilly report, was officially released. It was after that report was released that then they started mentioning my name.
Just to be clear, for the sake of our viewers watching around the world, what kind of evidence are you talking about? That you say you have evidence. What kind of evidence?
I have evidence that people will swear under oath that were approached also to implicate me.
And you're going to take that evidence back to Malawi with you? You're planning to return to Malawi?
Yes. I mean,
so you're going to fight to clear your name?
I don't have to clear my name, because Malawians know what I did, and my conscience is very clear.
Today you are a very well-known, very respected activist and speaker on development. You gave a lecture in September last year, for example, entitled Moral Leadership, the Prerequisite for Economic Growth, Development and Peace in Africa. Wouldn't it help your cause and your credibility to speak on these important subjects, as you do, if you were able to completely put all of these allegations to bed? I know you don't like the phrase clearing your name, but to completely end any cloud that surrounds you on this subject. Surely you would agree.
It's not easy. When you fight corruption, that is why my position is that going forward as Africa, those that stick their neck out to say, I am going to fight corruption and conduct a forensic audit in their government during their time like I did, must be encouraged and supported. Because you fight very strong people, and they fight you back, and they smear that back onto you. And so at the end of the day, for me, it doesn't matter. What I know is I don't need anybody to pat me on the back, because I know what I did, and there are a lot of people that know what I did, and that I will continue for as long as I live to raise my voice against corruption.
So let me ask you this. Many commentators say that Cashgate was not only behind your loss in the 2014 presidential election to Peter Mutharika, the current president, but that you also tried to annul that election. You did try and annul that election. And people say that's because you were worried, you knew that Mutharika was going to throw these charges at you. That's why you tried to annul the election.
No, the Electoral Commission in Malawi announced that there had been fraud and that they are going to seek for recounting. And I said, if that is the case, then I think Malawians deserve a leader of their choice. I am calling for a rerun, but I am not a candidate. Even if there had been a rerun, I was not going to run.
Are you going to run again?
No, that is not up to me. I cannot decide. It's up to Malawians.
Oh, so you're not ruling it out? You might run again?
If they want me to run again, I'll run again, but it's not a priority for me. It doesn't matter. I believe that if you're a leader and you're serving your people, you don't have to be in State House. Okay. You can serve your people at any level, at any rate.
Let's talk about the economy and poverty, issues you've made a lot of contributions on since leaving office for the Club de Madrid and others. When you came to power in 2012, you inherited a shattered economy, no doubt about that. One of your first moves as president was to accept the IMF-led recovery measures that your predecessor had resisted, which included a 49% devaluation of the Malawian currency, a measure that many experts say hit the poorest Malawians hardest. There was a skyrocketing in the price of basic commodities by as much as 50%. There was panic buying, there was protests on the streets. Looking back, do you regret buying into the IMF treatment plan for your country?
No. I don't think you're being fair to Malawians.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is that I had to make very hard decisions. Do we devalue the kwacha by 49%? Do we get back on course with IMF? The economy had grown by 1.8%. 35 companies were operating at that 5%. There was money for only 1 week. 2 million people had no food. 675 women were dying giving birth. So therefore, for me, do I take these hard decisions? There's one lesson that I learned, is that when you're a leader, you must be all-inclusive. I organized what we called the National Dialogue on the Economy. And there we picked only 5 sectors, because I had only 2 years to go. In any case, you have to listen to what the people say. But also as a leader, engage the people. I have learned as a leader that when you engage the people, they'll stand with you and by you. Okay. And by you, what you should be looking at is then what was the situation of the economy when I exited, and what is the situation of the economy today. Because we had grown by over 6% from 1.8. When I came in, there were no lights, there was no water. When I left, we had water and electricity all the time. Okay. And we overproduced our food by 1 million metric tons. And companies were operating at 85% and recruiting again.
You're proud of your economic record.
So I am proud of the efforts that I made.
Okay. And since leaving office, you've dedicated yourself not only to women and minority rights initiatives, but to development work, to the Club of Madrid, to advancing democracy. You've argued that what Africa really needs is not aid, but trade. But you've also had first-hand experience as president of Malawi of aid, and Malawi is a country, it's a very aid-dependent country. At what point will we be able to say that Africa has outgrown aid, that countries like Malawi have outgrown aid?
Do you know, in 2001, a minister in Malawi said, Malawi is losing 30% of its aid through mismanagement and corruption. In 2006, that same minister said that and was sacked. In my opinion, Malawi gets 40% of its budgetary support from aid. If we save 30% from corruption, all we will want to find is 10%. Malawi is not poor. And so let me speak general about Africa. Africa is not poor. We are rich in our natural resources. So what we need to do, in my opinion, is to set our priorities right. Is to sit down and say, how can we best use our natural resources for the benefit of our people? So I have a dream that one day we shall have diamonds for cash, gold for cash in poor households, that a country that is rich in diamonds will give into their poor households $5,000 a year, so all girls in that school and boys go to school or enjoy better health. So in my opinion, Africa can move forward without aid if they can just set their priorities right. Not that aid is not important, but it looks like where we are going, we don't have a choice. But what we must do is to see what is it that we can do ourselves to lift ourselves out of the difficult situations.
Joyce Banda, thank you for joining me on UpFront.